be about 60.
Alright guys, so we have a 99 Blazer back in the shop. We've worked on it before. We did a fuel pump in it because the sending unit was bad, and we're having a starting issue where it doesn't want to fire up, just a long crank. And we verified that it wasn't getting fuel pressure. We have a gauge hooked up. It would take forever to get fuel pressure, and so he needed a sending unit anyway, so we put the fuel pump in, hoping that the check valve in the fuel pump was bad and that would fix everything. But actually what happened is the spider injector, the regulator is actually bad and it's letting it bleed through, so you're losing fuel pressure within minutes where it's supposed to only lose a couple pounds over a 10-minute period. So it's also got a really rough idle, which is actually why it's back, because it's pretty much undrivable right now. There's where we're at. This thing's only been sitting a couple minutes. It's already down to 25. And how long over 10 minutes is supposed to drop?
I think it's about 3 to 5 psi in 10 minutes. It should only limit to that. Every 10 minutes it should be about 3 to 5 psi. I can cycle the key and show how this fast.
Yeah, we'll have him cycle the key because we disconnected the air intake so we can show you guys a little bit better what we're looking at. So there we go. It's up. It's at 60.
Key off and just wait.
And it's already dropped 3 pounds. It's already failed within the first 5 seconds. So like I said guys, we already replaced the fuel pump, which could also be causing that issue. Now we could have a bad fuel pump, yes, but we're also having issues with the spider injector, which is very common on these. So I think we're going to end up putting that in as well, because we believe the regulator's bad, which is causing our flowback issue, causing us to bleed off on our fuel line, which is causing a very hard start. Alright guys, so we're getting ready to pull the spider out of this thing. He took off, this is the brake booster hose for the vacuum, your evap solenoid, your coil pack and ignition module. Also the throttle body's off, so you're going to get down to the upper intake. He's going to pop the radiator hose off, which we've already drained. So right now we're just going to disconnect and get all the wires and stuff off so we can get the upper plenum unbolted and out so we can access the spider. So now he's working on the bolt connector. That's what actually runs the spider. It's got a weather pack connector, so it'll fight you a little bit.
These little tabs in here, each one's an injector. I don't know if you can see each one of these pins. That's also a point you can check resistance on each one of these to check your ohms.
Alright guys, so you don't have to do what we're doing right now, but we have to do this anyway because it needs a tune-up. So instead of struggling and giving us a little more camera room to show you guys what's going on, we're going to take the cap and rotor, or the cap off, and the spark plug wires.
No, they're hard line. They bolt to the block, then they go soft.
Yeah.
Yes, I do have to disconnect them back here.
Alright guys, so he got the lines cracked loose, and now we're getting the bracket that holds the lines to the upper intake off. Alright guys, so we got those two little nuts off where the lines actually go into the injector regulator itself.
In here, so they are probably going to be a little wedged. Just want to work them out a little bit.
So we just messed with that a little bit, got those fuel rails out, and now it's time for the upper plenum to come off, and we'll start seeing the business end of this joint. Looks like got them all, so that cover will come off, and then that's your spider injector right there, guys. If you've never seen them, that's where they're located, right in the plenum. So right now we are just marking the injectors because it is timed. The fuel injectors are timed, so we have to make sure that they go back in the same way they came out. Otherwise you'll be firing fuel in a wrong cylinder, just like you would hooking a spark plug wire up to the wrong spark plug. Alright, so you just push them together, pull it out, and then pop it out of its holder, and you got it out.
Yeah, see, cylinder numbers are right actually on this one.
This one is different. It's some sort of conversion. See that these are way different. If you look at it, they're way different from that style. Apparently this is an updated style. I guess they had problems with the Pop-It style. So these are what are on the newest, they use these in. This is what's on them. So they must have just retrofitted them so that they fit in the old one. But everything else is the same. The regulator's all the same. These actually have nicer tubes on them.
They got plastic tubes with a heat shrink on them with the wires coming through.
So these are actually a lot better design. I like this a lot better than the old crappy one.
They are the same. I don't need the bracket, what they were talking about, because you can see where my notches are here. And look, you can see they're here too.
We just buffed that and we're cleaning it off with brake clean and a rag because you want to have that clean surface so when we put the upper back on it'll seal. You should get a new gasket. It's like an O-ring type gasket. That way you don't have an upper intake leak because that'll be a pain. So we're going to see if we have one. If not, the old one does look okay.
Hate to reuse it, but
Alright, so everything's in, they're all hooked up. You do keep the plastic pieces on and basically just stick them all in the hole and then stick the main part in, clip it in, and then go back and push them all in, make sure they're in correctly. But that's it, guys. Nothing special. It's kind of cool that they got rid of the old Pop-It style because if you broke one of those clips, it wouldn't hold the injector and the whole thing was trash. So it's cool that they're making the new style fit the older Pop-It style stuff. We're getting ready to put this top hat back on. It's the upper plenum for the air intake manifold. And we're just wiping it off with some brake clean. We had already buffed it and scraped it and stuff. Alright, so we just took the upper intake and we had it in the parts washer, got it all cleaned up, cleaned out the groove for the O-ring type gasket, and now we're just going to install that and she'll be ready to go on. The upper ring there that seals the top of the CPI unit, that has some grease on it. Yeah, you want to use Vaseline or Sil Glide, whatever you can find on that, just so it doesn't rip when you're setting the top piece on, because you will get a vacuum leak from that, a pretty big one, because the upper part of the intake actually seals to that, which is right there.
Just want to see how it places in first.
Alright, so you just want to sit that right down on top of there. Make sure that that top O-ring seats.
Find my little light. Make sure I'm sealed, but I believe I'm in.
We got it on. As you can see, you had to wiggle it pretty good and force it in with a set of pliers to get it up and make sure it's seated properly. You got to make sure you do that. We're putting the bolts in it now, and also don't forget to put your evap purge on the other side of the intake that shares two intake bolts, just so you don't have to do work twice. Alright, so we're going to show you, this is Sil Glide, and basically you just rub it all over the ends. It's just a lubricant so it slides in the O-ring and doesn't tear it. Make sure everything goes back together properly. Also a good time to check the O-rings that go in here. So now everything should slip back together. We're actually pretty well almost done. Just a couple more things and we'll have this bad boy back together.
I always start the lines loose before bolting it all down. That tab these have to face down. That's actually what pushes on the line.
Alright, so make sure you got your tabs in down and tighten her up. And then just got to tighten the two back ones, which are 16 millimeter.
Easier with the distributor cap off, of course.
and with a stubby wrench. If you don't have one, buy a bunch at a yard sale and just start cutting them in half.
This one works center out. There. The best way is go into your owner's manual, find the sequence and the torque specs on them. Put this evap line back on the purge valve.
Alright guys, so the headers are on, the CPI is done, the spider injection, and here's the first fire. We'll see what happens. Look at that. She runs, but she's got an exhaust leak, so we're going to have to look into that. Hopefully it's just the donut area. So here it is. I know earlier it sounded like we had an exhaust leak. We did. We forgot to tighten the one header down. These headers have been in and out of this thing so often. It was just a simple mistake. We got them tightened up. Everything's good now. This thing runs super smooth. Look at that. Doesn't even shake, do nothing. We're going to get it up to temperature, make sure that it stays that way. There was a bunch of stuff wrong with this thing, but the CPI unit is replaced, so that's running good. I hope that video helped you guys. I hope this video helped you guys. I hope maybe it'll help you in the future do it on your own vehicle. But make sure you check out those links in the description, guys, for the Etsy and eBay for our decals. And also hit that like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video, guys. Thanks for watching.